Call the special meeting of council Wednesday, May the 11th to order, 5:15. Looking for approval of the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor, opposed, motion carried. There is one item for new business, and it's the West Shore Parks and Rec discussion. So in fairness,
Can we switch it? So that I can leave?
Well,
Possible, or are we guys gonna talk and then?
yeah, I suppose we can, because we can. Yeah, because they're going to have to be gone for the two items anyway, so that'll be fine. So let's move on then to item 3. Oh, pardon me, that was motion. Seconder for moving that down. All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Bylaw final reading for 1622, amendment number 3, retaining wall regulations.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Now we can let...
I'm glad I got here. That was great.
Was there anything else that you thought of
No,
on
not
that one?
from not
Just
from
that one thing,
Culver's, yeah.
whether it comes or not? Well,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. West Shore Parks and Rec agenda items for the upcoming AGM next month. Councillor Martin and the CAO and I met yesterday around what possibly might come up. And one of the things that has been identified is that when Rock the Shores first came to the community, it wasn't a Colwood event per se. It was a promoter renting space at West Shore Parks and Rec, which is a joint-owned facility. We wanted them to be successful, as did everybody else, and everybody kind of made skinny on any extra costs and that sort of thing. But as the years have increased and the event has increased, we're seeing actually costs being attributed directly to Colwood for extra policing, bylaw, stuff like that in there that should probably be considered in the total and larger package picture. Now, having identified that, we haven't had the opportunity either to go to West Shore Parks and Rec and kind of revisit, what we give in kind. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off there, Jason. But so there's kind of I'm not sure whether it's an agenda item to be discussed at the AGM around there, because it probably isn't affecting other members at this point, although it may when, I think ideally West Shore Parks and Rec Society should be making the deal with the promoter. The invoices come in and get paid out of the proceeds in there. So, but we don't know what any of those numbers are really, and haven't had the chance. Linda was not in the office this week early for us to have that conversation, but I just wanted to bring it up for you guys, whether you think it's necessary to put it on the AGM or just let Ian pursue this as a matter and course of business from the municipality through to the West Shore Parks and Rec. Well, and I want to address it now in the going forward, because it has been indicated from the promoter that they're interested in doing another event, perhaps in the fall, not necessarily this fall, but expanding what they do, a different genre of music and that sort of thing. So it's up to 3 days this week or this year. If they come on with a country venue and do another 3-day festival in September, 2017, I think policing-wise, what was it, 60,000?
This year, it's estimated to be approximately 73,000 because it's a longer event, and then there's our costs on top of that. Or I think Bylaw and fire, are
Yeah, fire.
in their
is another one.
$7,000 to $8,000 range. So we're looking at an $80,000 bill this year.
So then times 2, potentially. So I think the idea of having the conversations early, as I understand it, I don't think that the promoter can deal directly with the RCMP for contract of services. It has to come under a municipality, and that's kind of where we got named in it, because the event's within our municipality. But I think that it still should be cost recovery through West Shore Parks and Rec. But
So just the one point I think to consider also, though, is that, West Shore Parks and Rec is a great outdoor venue. And, I've always, since the day that the arena was built, always had envisioned that they would try to, cover lots of cultural territory. Not just be about hockey, but be about arts and other events. But there's also 2 other venues in Colwood that are excellent venues, Royal Roads and Fort Rod Hill, for hosting outdoor events. And I think we should be looking at making sure that we know what the comparative is, that we don't want to take it away from Fort Rod Hill, for example, because they need to do whatever they can to survive too.
yeah, but there's also a little bit different regulatory around there. Both Royal Roads and Fort Rod Hill have federal implications and use provisos on there. Mostly for the university, they are only allowed access to certain grounds under certain terms. And Fort Rod Hill has a different set of things. And I know events have ceased to happen at Fort Rod Hill because of the regulatory that's there. So we're losing events. Councillor Logan.
Thank you, Worship. The event made a profit too, I believe, like a pretty decent profit for West Shore Parks and Rec from a rentals point of view.
It's a flat rate fee that they get, yeah.
But it's probably more than they would have received had the event not been there, right? So I guess looking at it, I don't want to get to the point that that we put up enough obstacles that it sends them elsewhere. 'Cause I think West Shore Parks and Rec is the best venue for them, and since they do make a profit, that means the members benefit from that profit as well through reduced fees and whatnot. So, I just want to make sure, I agree with bringing up the issue with West Shore Parks and Rec, but I just want to make sure that we're not going to cut our nose off to spite our face.
Exactly.
If we're afraid of an $8,000 investment in Bylaw or fire, but we're going to lose, say, a $30,000 share of profit, as an example, then we're no further ahead. And the other thing too is the branding that the event gives Colwood, because it's not Victoria. They tweet it out as Colwood. And that in itself is worth a few bucks. So, but I think we should raise the question for sure.
Councillor Day.
Just from my time on the board, I seem to recall the profit to West Shore Parks and Rec being in the $30,000 to $40,000 range. So we don't want to be spending $80,000 to share $30,000 with 4 other municipalities, right?
We're spending 8
No, 80.
80.
though, not city.
Yes.
Yes.
Your Worship,
65 in policing.
Yeah, we make every effort to, I think the purpose of going to West Shore Park and Recreation is they have better influence over the promoter than we do, because they're the host. And so that the challenge for us is we invoice them for the policing costs, but we have no means to recover those costs if they renege. And so last year we invoiced them. We told them actually we wanted a check up front. We got, I think, 50% up front. The other 50% we didn't receive until January. And it's our belief that the only reason we received that other 50% was because they just chose to run the event again. If they had chosen not to run the event, we don't think we would have received that 50%. So we have no mechanism to get that money back. We think that because West Shore is the host, they have better tools in their toolbox to make sure we get paid. And so that was the intent, was to go to the CAO of West Shore and talk to them about them being appropriately the correct body to be interacting with the promoter to make sure that the RCMP costs are covered off properly, and any other costs. And I think we've always eaten the police or the bylaw enforcement overtime and the fire costs. And I don't think we intend to this year, or intend to bill them for that. It's just the policing that's the issue.
See the other municipalities benefit from this too, so they share in the cost.
Well, I think that's what the conversation has to be is, like, yes, the facility's doing this, and if they're sharing that revenue, then costs need to be shared too, like, in there. We shouldn't, it's okay for us to voluntarily say we're going to suck up the bylaw and that sort of thing, but if it were to progress to a point where we're taking on the overtime policing on top of bylaw, on top of fire, and whatever, then could be setting ourselves up. So we want to make sure that we've got kind of the I's dotted and T's crossed. But I don't, for me, I'm not sure that that's a AGM conversation. I think we still need to pursue that a little bit more one-on-one in the scheme of things. So. Well, yeah, we want to encourage them to consider events like that. So, having that template of how it works out and everybody with a clear understanding is probably good.
So how does it work out for something like when they host a home show, that kind of event?
Again, as I understand it, most of the time this is just rental of space is what happens. There's a flat rate fee, and then if they're asking for extra services like setup services or takedown services or concession add-ons and staffing oversight and that kind of thing is like plus on contracts, and each one is negotiated per need. Jace?
Not quite true. At the home show, I have seen the fire department cruising through to make sure evacuation routes are all clear and exits are clear, and counting the number of exits. So there is a fire cost to us for the home show. As far as the Rock the Shores, I tend to agree that the policing costs should be shared amongst all the municipalities' costs. $80,000 is a pretty steep bill for Colwood by itself. Personally, I never attend those. I don't like those events, but obviously they are very popular, and I think we should make it very clear through either the AGM or other means that Colwood is not prepared to foot the bill for policing. Do they need a permit to hold from Colwood to hold any of these events?
I would think just if it's going past sort of noise bylaw time or in, you know, that's,
I
yeah.
don't think we have special events permits, but they do need a permit to carry out amplified music. Because we have in our noise bylaw, you're not allowed to have any amplified music unless it's authorized through the bylaw. So they have to get that from us, and then they need a building permit for the stage.
So I guess the mechanism wouldn't kick in until the next time they tried to hold such an event. Should they renege on policing costs, we could say, well, next time you don't get your permits, but we're still out the 1 year's costs.
So, anyway, something for us to be aware of, and so I just, my recommendation is that we allow, you know, for Ian to have those conversations with the administration there, and then, you know, we can report back at a later time. So, sounds good? Somebody want to go that, so that we have it on record? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Then the other one to bring you guys up to speed on is that City of Langford has passed a resolution at their council that says, Council approved the West Shore Parks and Recreation Society 2016 budget as outlined in their letter dated November 25th. That was back at the time when we all had to approve the West Shore budget. And that the City of Langford served notice to West Shore Parks and Recreation Society and the owners group that the city will not support any budget for 2017 unless there is meaningful change to the governance of the owners committee, which will result in a redistribution of costs amongst the owners and a reduction in Langford's contribution. So they're looking for some offset to them, because they built recreation in Langford. So at this point, I don't know what that means. And the only owners group meetings that I'm aware of have been ones that we have called in the city of Colwood or hosted here to deal with issues, and we did come up with a new amendment to the agreement that has a shelf life till the end of June 2019, but there is proviso in there for members to bring issues forward, but they haven't sort of laid out a plan, which was asked, you know, what they thought of that, what they want or mean by recognition. So I've undertaken the beginnings of calling that together, and I had a brief conversation with Mayor Williams of Highlands today, and I'll catch up with the others as well to try and identify a time where we can get together and bring, you know, and start that conversation. I guess probably the biggest stickly point of things is not just the redistribution, but prior to that was the whole section that dealt with the fact that it has to be 100% endorsed for any capital expenditure, or else it didn't fly. Well, the past has shown proof that they've put that over there and gone ahead and done that sort of agreements in the past. So they're not adhering to their own rules and regulations at this point. So although there's reluctance to change it, because some folks like to have that veto power invested in them, I think that it's really time that we have that discussion that allows for a much more reasonable consideration at the table to how things proceed. Because, you know, I think that there's probably validity to the fact that perhaps Langford may not have entertained such a high-profile run at recreation if more consideration or things had come through in a timely way on site at West Shore Parks and Rec. So some of you have been around here a lot longer than I, but unfortunately not part of that group either, so.
I can attest to knowing where a lot of the hard feelings do come from. I was at the public engagement process for the building of Bear Mountain Arena as a citizen before I was elected, and I have concerns that the past will hold any solutions. I think the way forward is through looking at what we have on the ground now and what the value of it is and who paid for it, including Royal Bay Fields, where Colwood paid 100% for that, including the reneging of Langford on their debt repayment for the Bear Mountain Arena. There's a considerable amount of amenities for recreation that Colwood has and continues to foot the bill for, including our natural parks. Langford's last participation in the park was the purchase of Havenwood Park, which they gave a grand total of $50,000 towards, which borders in Langford as well as Colwood. So I think if you were to draw up that balance sheet, it would show that, you know, that there isn't this huge deficit on Langford's side that they seem to feel that they have. And I don't honestly think they're ever going to be happy supporting anything that isn't actually in Langford.
Funny you should make those comments because that's the road I'm going. So I've chatted with Linda at West Shore Parks and Rec, and she's bringing together that information as a starting point for us to then move forward with the owners group meetings and try and get something resolved. And factually, with that kind of information there, that gives that analysis. So just want you guys to be aware. Jason?
My personal feeling on that is if we change the governance of how West Shore Parks and Rec votes away from unanimous, then we will have communities dropping out completely. Chosen, Highlands, probably View Royal, because they don't want to get sucked into big mega projects that are pushed hard by Langford and they don't really see the benefit of. So.
And I understand that completely, and so that's the reason for me to try and reach out to these folks in advance of you know, getting any emotion and heat in the room.
I think if you look how much we all love the way the CRD runs, I can understand the position of the smaller communities in the West Shore Parks and Rec, because we have no control whatsoever over CRD, and yet we foot a good chunk of the bill. These people probably feel the same way.
It has to be a model that's beneficial to all, and everybody can see. You know, that's my goal in there. So it's just an information piece, and more will come as it unfolds. All right. Moving on then to final item. Final reading for West Shore Parks and Rec Center fees and charges bylaw number 1624. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Looking for adjournment? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.